This is the BBC News with Fiona MacDonald. Preliminary investigations into the rail accident in eastern India suggest a signalling error may have been to blame for the crash in which 288 people lost their lives. The inquiry is looking into a theory that one of the two express trains was diverted onto a loop line where it smashed into a stationary goods train. Archana Shukla is at the crash site in Balasore.
Rescue operations have all concluded in the evening. What is happening now is clearing up of the tracks and maintenance workers, scores of them here, trying to clear up the wreckage, the debris, and get the train services started. This is the deadliest train crash that India has seen over many decades, and a lot of questions on how, despite the government spending millions of pounds on strengthening the signalling system and on railway safety, how a crash of this severity could happen in India. And those are the questions that the government would need to answer.
President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has named a man known as a traditional economist as his finance minister. The post went to Mehmet Şimşek, whose policies won the trust of international markets when he headed the ministry earlier. Correspondents say this could indicate that Mr Erdogan is about to abandon his unorthodox policy of keeping interest rates low despite high inflation. Mr Şimşek's appointment was announced after Mr Erdogan was sworn in as the president of Turkey for a third term. In his speech, he called for unity.
Türkiye'nin her bir vatandaşının enerjisini.
Turkey needs the energy, ideas and contributions of every citizen. All members of Turkey's 85 million population should stick together, just like bricks forming a wall. Turkey needs unity and solidarity more than ever. As a nation, we need to re-establish our strong unity.
Yeniden tesis etmemiz gerekiyor.
Officials in the Ukrainian city of Dnipro say an explosion has destroyed a residential building, injuring at least 20 people, including 5 children. There are reports the explosion was caused by a missile. The Ukrainian President, Volodymyr Zelensky, said on social media that Russia had attacked, hitting buildings, and that residents had been trapped in the rubble. Video footage from the scene shows rescue workers digging through smouldering wreckage in the dark. Violence in Senegal has continued for a third day. 15 people have been killed so far in protests following the conviction of the opposition leader Ousmane Sonko on Thursday. Clashes between his supporters and the police broke out after the court ruling. Further protests erupted on Friday despite the army being deployed. There have been reports of looting and arson in both the capital Dakar and in the southern city of Ziguinchor. Ousmane Sonko was convicted of corrupting a young woman. World News from the BBC. The Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni has said 54 soldiers were killed in an attack by Somali Al-Shabaab fighters late last month. It's believed to be the biggest loss of life in a single operation for the country's contingent serving with the African Union Force in Somalia. Here's Julian Bedford.
The scale of the defeat suffered by the Ugandan contingent has finally been made clear. Last week, the president would only say that Ugandan troops had been adequately armed and had not performed as expected. On Saturday, he admitted that 54 soldiers had died before and during the retreat. American airstrikes were then called in to prevent Al-Shabaab taking arms from the captured base. The embarrassment has only been partially reversed by the announcement that the position south of the Somali capital Mogadishu has now been recaptured.
Israel and Egypt are jointly investigating a border incident in which 3 Israeli soldiers and an Egyptian security officer were killed. The details of what happened are not clear. Israel says the Egyptian officer killed 2 of its soldiers early this morning. The officer and the 3rd Israeli soldier were killed in a confrontation later. Egypt has confirmed that a member of its security forces was killed. The Argentine football star Lionel Messi has ended his stay at the French side Paris Saint-Germain with jeers and a defeat. Messi joined the club 2 years ago but has struggled to impose himself, and the dream of a European triumph has been snuffed out at the quarter-final stage in both seasons. PSG supporters booed when his name was read out for a last time at the Parc des Princes in Paris. And despite taking a 2-0 lead, PSG eventually crumbled to a defeat that some in the French capital would say was a fitting end to a fractious relationship. BBC News.